So, and picking up where we left off, we have been saying that intrusion prevention systems, although useful, are just another tool for improving the security of our network and of our system, but that we can now solely rely on them to protect against cyber threats or hackers for that matter. We also talked briefly about VPNs and how they can also offer a certain level of protection, but that for some reason or another, we can neither use them in every single situation, nor count that they will encrypt all of our network traffic. And of course, we have been saying that the most effective and dangerous way to attack a system is performing this attack over the traffic of that network. And learning to protect this is so crucial that we have even overlooked, at least for now, things like phishing emails or programs we may download from the internet. As in reality, and in comparison, these are not so difficult to deal with. Nevertheless, what are those attacks we're talking about exactly, how these perform, or what they're trying to achieve exactly, that's something we haven't mentioned yet. Well, as you can imagine, this is quite complex, but not so much that we cannot get an overall understanding of their dynamic. So, and when the network traffic isn't encrypted, and remember that with encryption oftentimes comes authentication, this traffic, or the packets within that traffic, can be changed without the target application or the system to know anything about it. This means that it doesn't really matter what we have on the other side, the target program in our system doesn't have any idea if the received packets contain the correct information or if these have been changed at some point. So basically, let's say a web browser, and when there isn't any authentication, doesn't really know what information it should receive, or if some is missing, or even if it is receiving more information than it should. And it's this particular circumstance which allows the hackers to affect the information contained within the stream of packets, and hence attempt to manipulate the target application. Now obviously, and this is where things start to become a little bit more complex, programs in general aren't just made for receiving whatever set of instructions from the outside and just execute them. So the hacker doesn't just inject a set of instructions for a program to follow. What it needs to do first is to attack or corrupt that program. And if we're going to get more specific, not the program as the set of files on your computer, but the process of the program. Now we need to talk a little bit more about processes, but basically a process is just an application, while being executed or present as a set of instructions in the memory of the system. So essentially, whenever you run an application, this turns into a running process. Now running where exactly? Well, in the memory of the system, or what's also known as the volatile memory of the system. Of course, this is just a basic introduction to the subject, and we really don't need to get too deep into that, so let's just try to keep it simple. And let's just say that when you run an application, this turns into a running process. And this is the actual target of the attack. So in summary, a hacker will try to attack the process of a running application in the target system, with the purpose of corrupting that process. And this is done by ejecting code into the traffic produced by said process. Now this is really interesting because it basically means that any process looking through the internet is a potential target of this type of attack, and I mean any. It could be a main process in the system, something crucial, or it could be just an innocent database program. Nevertheless, if you remember from the previous video, what we saw getting attacked was the process belonging to an anti-malware running in the target system, so no respect there. Now, in a very basic manner, how could we prevent this from happening? Well, if the traffic produced by a given application or process is encrypted, that could help quite a bit. But again, our options in that regard are somehow limited. First because, and as we just discussed, we may not be in the position of implementing a VPN in our system. And the second because the traffic produced by that process may ignore the VPN tunnel altogether. And finally, and in spite of me mentioning this type of attack as the most dangerous and effective, is not the only actual way of attacking a process. Not as silent and as effective as this one, but just be aware that there are. And so, and without going any further into how does a process work exactly, or what's the role of volatile memory in a system, we're left with the same question. What can we do about it? Well, first and foremost, just know that companies such as Microsoft are of course aware of this issue, and they are constantly trying to improve their operating system and of course provide solutions to deal with this kind of things. And of course this includes operating systems based on Linux. Because all the situation with security isn't that new. It has been around for quite a few years. And as a matter of fact, this type of attack is the exact same that was used during the cyber attack involving the ransomware known as WannaCry. Meaning that the process, in this case using the SMB protocol, was attacked, was corrupted, and used for obtaining elevated privilege in the target system, hence allowing for the installation of the malware, or in this case the WannaCry ransomware. Of course, there's the argument that the compromised systems weren't up to date and such, but the point is that the process using the SMB protocol was vulnerable to this type of attack. And at this point, we can classify this type of attack as a memory corruption based attack. As you can see, it's really easy to quickly get lost into technical jargon, so that's why we're trying to do our best for keeping things clear. So, why we haven't seen more attacks like those of the WannaCry ransomware? Well, it's not because there aren't processes that cannot be attacked or corrupted out there. As I showed you, there are still plenty. However, some of these aren't commonplace, and oftentimes, hackers find themselves making exploits or attacks for specific processes running into the system of the target company. So these type of attacks are still in use, but of course individual companies don't openly talk about it. And the reason for this to still be happening is because whilst companies like Microsoft are aware of this and they are constantly improving and protecting their code, new programs and applications are created and installed every day. And many of these, of course, don't follow a standard because there isn't, at least when it comes to code integrity, while the program is running as a process. And this, of course, includes anti-malware and antivirus solutions. So I'm back to the first question. What can we do about it? Well, let's go ahead and begin taking a look at some of the solutions. See you in the next video.